El trabajo de fotografía de Chernobyl es tan impresionante como las respuestas que me da el mismísimo Jakob Ihre, el encargado de definir de qué manera se iba a ver esta serie, que para muchos es una de las mejores, si no la mejor de la historia. Entre otras cosas, me cuenta la crudeza a la hora de filmar y también cuáles fueron las referencias que tuvieron en cuenta para llevar a cabo este genial proyecto. No se pierdan esta entrevista de punta a punta porque creo que es de las mejores que hice.
We now return to Mira Akien and Contré with our latest interview.
If you had like any horror film influences in the way that you shot that.
No, not really. I mean, once again, we all had reality as the influence. You know, we didn't have any kind of cinematic references in any way.
You define like radioactivity as an invisible threat, as an invisible monster. So tell me about how did you work with radioactivity, like as this monster, this villain, if you can say, of the show?
Yeah, well, one of the stories that I heard about was that people didn't, of course, after the accident, people didn't go out, and for many months later, people didn't let their kids run out in the sunlight, for example. But there was a story that when dust particles in the air are being backlit, that kind of, for some reason, some people thought that was the radioactivity being exposed, or that's when you could see the invisible threat or the radioactivity when something was being backlit. So somehow the light or sunlight became in some way the symbol of this, invisible threat, or it became a symbol for radioactivity. And we also had a very clear reference, which was a mural from the Ukraine, an enormous big mural where you see the working Soviet working hand in hand with the atom, which is symbolized like a sun. And in this enormous mural, you have the sun and you have the two Soviet workers. And from this sun, there are rays coming out, spreading in this mural. So and that also gave us the push to go for this.
I'm pleased to report that the situation in Chernobyl is stable.
I read that you worked in a very similar to the one in Chernobyl. So tell me about that. Like, what inspired you to do when you were there? Was it threatening for you? Tell me something about that location.
Yeah, it was a sister power plant to Chernobyl, so it's almost identical. It only had one reactor, while Chernobyl has many more. But this was a smaller one, but otherwise it has very similar proportions in some way with Chernobyl. So it felt very much that we were, where it actually happened. So that was incredible to have access to this, and that really gave the entire team, including the actors, the feeling that we were doing this, that this was actually, we were standing on the real place. And I think for the actors, that was an enormous advantage for them to get into to their characters. And even for us, it gave us the possibility to be much more fluid with our camera work. We didn't have to be so locked down, and in order for the VFX work to work out, so we could be, quite free and look sometimes even 360 degrees with the camera, which is not possible to do. So so both for the actors and for us, for the camera team, it was an enormous benefit to shoot at this place.
And going near Chernobyl was like a possibility. I know that it's not like for anyone. I know that I think the government doesn't allow like anyone to go there. But did you like maybe discuss the possibility to go there?
Yeah, we even had our second unit going there for some specific shots. But no, we didn't shoot any scenes there as such.
In terms of radiation, I'm told it's the equivalent of a chest X-ray.
No, Chernobyl is on fire.
It's like almost like you choose cold lightning, like with blue and green colors. So tell me the story behind that decision.
Well, it was not really a decision as such. It was something that was told to us by our research and our pre-production for many months. So that knowledge told us to do it in this way. But of course, we did a lot of tests, and also I did a documentary back in 2001, which I shot in Odessa, in the Ukraine, not far from Kiev, and that was a documentary which I went back to and looked at in order to show us, how does reality in Ukraine looks like, even though this was shot in 2001 and we were meant to depict 1980s, but still, so that was our source slightly, or at least my source to go back to, and that documentary is very kind of cold green, but also, and why it's like that is because of a lot of fluorescence in houses, for example, or in apartments, a lot of fluorescence, not only just in the kitchen, but also in people's living rooms or in bedrooms. You could see fluorescent tubes. And of course, that light often gives you at least it gives you a green hint or green tint.
Tell me how to put it out.
You are dealing with something that has never occurred on this planet before.
Flying in the actors from London or from America to where we were shooting, it kind of reminded them of what happened to the real characters, the real characters during the accident, that they were also flown from Moscow to meet up in Pripyat, and they had never met before, and they had to collaborate and almost become friends in the process. And that was also happened to the actors, I guess, that they were flown in and they had to collaborate and make this project together.
Oh, it is beautiful.
I remember we shot with special cameras. I mean, the main show is shot on an Alexa, but many of those shots were shot with this phantom camera where you can get an even higher frame rate. And there's also a camera that needs a lot of light. And I don't think we really had enough of light for that scenes. But then we also like that idea that it goes darker, that these scenes are more contrasty and darker than other scenes in the film. And I think this phantom camera kind of pushed us to go in that direction, and made us maybe stylize it more than other scenes.
If you hit an animal and it doesn't die, keep shooting until it does. Don't let them suffer.
I know that happened for real, but how do you manage to do something like this?
Yeah, I mean, we went actually even further. I mean, we shot scenes in that episode with animals that are even more grotesque and heartbreaking. And we also thought, wow, this is going to be, incredible to show this to an audience. But I think in the edit, they felt that we were actually going too far.
Oh.
So they decided very, with a lot of guts, they decided to cut those scenes out, even though I always thought that this will make, not TV history, but this will be really incredible to show the world. But they thought that it was going too far. They censored themselves in some way, which was really, really remarkable of them to do that.
What does that mean? It means that the more steam present within the system, the higher the reactivity. I
think maybe we had 4 or 5 days to shoot all this, and we had even 3 cameras. And that was an interesting scene where we also, once again, we had even video footage from the actual courtroom scene. So, when you see pictures from this courtroom scene, you can actually see a couple of cameramen in the courtroom shooting all this. So that was once again our big reference. So we used, of course, we had our own film lights, but also we used often many of the practicals that are seen in the film are being used as our real lighting sources.
You can see him, and you cannot touch him. Do you understand?
Where do you draw the line between documentary and fiction?
Yeah, I mean, you collect and material, and you do your research and you study, and then of course you let go after a while, and then you of course you use your own imagination or ideas, and you think that those will kind of fit with reality, but so we were not trying to make a one-to-one, carbon copy in that sense. It's a fine balance, but it's just very important to do your research first, and then you can stray off, or you can get your own ideas. And even though they might not be 100%, accurate, there will still be, you still get the feeling that this is, something that could have happened for real.
What happened then? What happened after? All of it.
Throughout the shoot, it was hard for so many people to go through this horrible accident. So people were extremely touched every day, shooting this behind camera and in front of camera. People were really, really kind of disturbed even sometimes of what they have to go through. I think what's been done really well by Craig and Johan, the director, is that we've been able to, as a team, to be able to to portray mankind in an honest and in a soulful way, and that's very much thanks to the amazing actors. Even small roles were extremely well casted, and the story or the show is really telling the story, all these technicalities and information, but still it really focuses mostly on the human beings, on the on all these different souls, and that's what I think is really remarkable with it, that it's a very technical kind of content show, but it's still got so much heart and so much focus on the human being,